Testing. Can anyone hear me? Thank you all. Look, if you can hear me, give me a thumbs up. Trying to make sure that our audio is good. Last time I had audio issues when it came down to recording these lives. So I'm be doing these lives for like now about 3 weeks. But last week had to take that off because audio issues. I'm gonna repost it again later on. Maybe next week I'll probably repost it, but we'll see. So before we get started, I want to tell you, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Black Gentlemen's Club podcast. Now tonight we're diving into the captivating world of the law of human nature. This book right here, The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene. Pretty much we're going to focus on a particularly intriguing chapter. This chapter I think is very, very interesting. The chapter is over law number 3. It's called See Through People's Mask. And when I first heard that part, the first thing came to my mind was We Wear the Mask by Paul Laurence Dunbar. One of the first things that came into my mind was that actual poem. I don't know if anyone have ever heard it, but that poem is pretty significant. So now law 3, the law of role playing. This law reveals theatrical threads woven into the fabric of our daily interactions now. And by saying that, we're going to go deeper into it whenever kind of get it started. But what we're going to do, we're going to unmask the drama of everyday life together. That's what we're going to do. But before we get into that, if you can, and please do, share, subscribe, like, follow. Please get active in the comments. I appreciate you for getting active in the comments if you can. If you don't, it's cool. We're trying to build a community and it's one step at a time. So please help us reach our goal. Our goal is 1,000 subscribers. Trying to get 1,000 subscribers by the end of this year. Hopefully we can be consistent. Make sure that we provide quality value to you all. If it's not, please let us know. And if you have other questions or like suggestions, topics, whatever, put it into the chat. Engage with us so we can actually try to make better content for you. A lot of things that we're talking about is how we as Black men can overcome our obstacles and struggles that we face. Not looking at anybody else besides us. We have to have our own self-awareness to look at what we can do to become better. If each one of us focus on what we can do to become better, then we can then slowly change the trajectory of everything else going on around us. So right now, gonna go into a little bit of the law of role playing. So pretty much every day, we step onto life stage, perform various roles. Everybody has a different role. I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a son, I'm a brother, I'm a nephew, I'm a cousin, I'm a military member, all types of different things. I'm a child of God, all types of things. So we all have different roles that we play. Now, sometimes we step into certain roles without even actually realizing it. Because to some people, we could be their enemy. We can be someone's crutch. We can be someone's fall guy. We can be all types of different things that we can step into various roles whenever we didn't really choose to do so. But when this happens, when we become too attached to one role, or when we fail to recognize the performance of others, that's when we talk about role playing. Because once again, like I said, if you read that poem by Paul Laurence Dunbar, We Wear the Mask, then you would kind of understand what I'm talking about falling into that role, hiding behind a mask, and trying to let people know what we don't really feel like by masking it with our words. So in the book, he talks about the first thing he talks about is how the second language. The second language, by what he's saying, is about how we tend to communicate with our body language. Our body language is really not our second language. We think it is, but it's not. It's really more of our first language. Your body never lies. We do a lot of nonverbal communication. And a lot of that is 65% of our communication is nonverbal for the most part. You can Google it. You can do the research. If I can find that article, I'm going to see if I can drop it in so that way you can see the article for yourself. But it's 65%, majority of the time, is our actual is nonverbal communication. So understand that when you're having a thought about something, your body tends to send a signal out. And it's unconscious a lot of times. It's an unconscious signal. Like you may frown at something somebody says, because you heard a word that triggered you and you may solicit a response, or you may tense up, or you may fold your arms. Different things like that can is what I'm saying when it comes down to they call it second he called it second language, but I say that's your first language. Your second language is what comes out your mouth. And this is what he says about unmasking people or seeing through people's masks. Because we tend to say one thing, but then we tend to do the opposite through our actions or through our body language. For example, and I kind of give you an example for me, right? So if you had, let's say that you in the role you're in right now. Let's say I'm at work. So I'm in the military. I'm at work. I'm in my office, whatever, and my boss comes to me and asks me to do something that I don't even agree with because it takes away from the priorities that I already have in place to accomplish our mission. But because you think that I have time to accomplish now your task, now you come to me and ask me to do something that you was actually told to do, but then you put it on my plate. And you expect me to drop what I'm doing to get what you want done, even though what I'm doing still goes back to the same person above you that asked me to get it done. So now I got to put on a mask and start trying to watch what I say and watch how I even display it. But a lot of times, we may roll our eyes. We may say, Roger, tracking, but we really don't want to do it. So, you kind of like have to balance between watching what you say and actually how you portray yourself through your second language, as he called it, but I call it your first language, which is your body language. So, kind of understanding roles. So, how do you perceive the concept of role playing in daily life? It's pretty much a question that I want to ask some people. If you can you share an instance where you had to constantly change your role based on the social situation? Like, some of us are married, some of us may not be. But those who are not married, you have to do this a lot for in the dating scene. The dating scene, you may be one person one way, but when you go out to go meet somebody, you try to put on your best face. Or when you're going for a job interview, you try to put on your best face to get hired. But that's not really who you are. We know you tend to fake somebody that you're not just so you can gain something that you don't have. Is that beneficial? So it's things like that, kind of like understanding that type of role. Like, that's how we step into different roles. Or do you talk to your wife the same way you talk to your mother? You're not going to talk to your wife the same way you talk to your mother. You may talk to your mother with more respect, or you may disrespect your mom and respect your wife, and disrespect your wife, but respect your mom. So it's like, are you consistent across the board? Or are you just changing your mask every time you get around somebody new? Um, Another thing he kind of hit on was about authenticity versus performance, right? And he says that because in the book he's a story, he's a reference. The reference he used was this guy named Dr. Erickson. I don't know his last name, but he changed the way that psychotherapy began. He actually he was once he used to be fully functional, then he became paralyzed to the point where they thought he was going to die paralyzed. So what he tended to do was he tended to use his mind and start listening and start using his eyes to see cues from people, so that way he can see what the truth was. Because his mom would come in and try to tell him like everything is all right, everything is fine. But he heard in another room before his mom and them came in that the doctor said that he may have X amount of time to live. But they kept trying to hide the news from him. They thought that he couldn't handle that stuff. But what he started learning how to do was how to read their emotions, how to read their body language, how to read their eyes, things like that, which made him pretty much good at picking out people's true nature or their true meaning behind what they're saying. Instead of listening to what they're saying, he's hear what they're saying, but does it match up with your body language? And so over time, he began to gain the strength to become unparalyzed. He literally trained his mind back over again once he felt the twitch in his muscle. In one muscle, he started just focusing back on that twitch, on that muscle mind connection. And over time, he gained his strength back to become unparalyzed. That's when he got into the medical field to doing psychotherapy. And it goes deeper in the book about how he was able to pinpoint certain things about people that was not even released to them by the person. And that was like I said before, it was kind of like a trick that most magicians or psychics try to play, where they read your body language a lot, and they'll try to pick on trigger words or things to kind of see what kind of response they can elicit, to then draw more information from you. But from him, it wasn't to draw more information. It was just trying to help you understand what you're going through and help you find a way to get better. Yeah, man. Like you said, code switching is necessary in many industries, but personally, you said you want full circle alignment. I can definitely agree with that. I can definitely agree with the full circle alignment on that piece. Code switching is necessary. And that's what kind of like led into what Erickson was working on. Is about how people tend to switch their masks, and it's okay. It's just about acknowledging that, hey, we do this, and being cognizant of how often we do this, and when is it necessary to do it, and when is it not, which could be a telltale sign or helpful when it comes down to negotiations, right? So it's a question I wrote. The question I wrote was pretty much: do you think there's a fine line between authentic self-expression and playing a role? How do you balance the two in your personal life and professional life? Like, how can you really balance that? Do, for me, do I think there's a fine line between your authentic self-expression and playing a role? I absolutely do. Like you said before, you said code switching. I think that's what it should be called. Really, is code switching. Um, because I'm not gonna be the same person um with my superiors as I will with my peers. Or like, for example, like I told my boys before, or my homies, like my wife, she's my friend, but can I say she's my best friend? Can I tell her everything that I'm going through, whether it's not like, like I mean like deep stuff that only I talk to my boys about to get some guidance from them, because some things may hurt her feelings. You know what I'm saying? Or some things she may have some people that she talked to that give her better guidance than coming straight to me, because it may hurt my feelings. And it's okay. I understand that piece. But that's when I think that having that fine line is very critical, or having people that you can discuss those things with, so you can actually, it's not like you're not being yourself, it's that you know how to kind of guard people's emotions, or check your emotions, so that way you don't hurt nobody else's emotions or their feelings. So the third thing I kind of want to hit on was the power of perception. And this goes back to how, like I said before, in the book, he talks about how people can manipulate their roles for power or influence. And so in one of our previous podcasts, What is Power, which I think was episode 4, we actually discussed, the different types of power. And influence is a very, very, very big piece of power. If you're talking about the power of perception, we can look at social media. So with social media, most people are looking at what everybody has, and then looking at what they don't have. Oh, I want to be just like Mr. Beast. I want to be like whoever the big name person on social media or celebrity that you're following. You tend to try to emulate what they're doing, not understanding that they could be flat broke, and this is just an illusion, just to get you to buy something that they have. Maybe a course. It could be, maybe going to buy their album, but they out here flossing all these chains and money, but they actually broke on the low, because all that is a loan. And then you're thinking that that's what they have, but it's hurting you negatively, because you comparing yourself to them and not looking at what you already have and how to get better. You're trying to find a quick fix. Those, like, people can use body language. They can use all types of stuff to actually manipulate you for their gain, their own personal gain. And this kind of ties back into the second role we talked about yesterday, or the second law, which not yesterday but last week, which is the law of narcissism. How if you don't love yourself, you don't have self love, or if you tend to love yourself too much to where you can become a narcissist, where you can begin to become a deep narcissist or a narcissistic leader, which then in turn uses people only as objects to help self, not looking at, okay, finding empathy to figure out, what, I've been in your shoes. I understand what you're going through. Let me assist you and serve you more than I'm serving myself. And it's a fine balance to have. It's not saying that you can't love yourself. You have to have some self-love. But when you love yourself to the point to where the only thing you craving now is attention, that's where you become narcissistic. And that's where the power of perception can come into be, where now everything somebody must do for you is so that way you can influence everything that they do, or use your power to manipulate them, so that way now they're losing everything that they have. So you have to be very careful about people's intention, or their body language, right? The other thing is, oh yeah, definitely, most dating experts and media subconsciously push this idea. They do. They do it a lot, man. it's a and well, what's one thing about marketing? I was a marketing major. I have my degree in marketing. I've been doing it for a while. I ain't gonna say a little bit, but for a while, for like at least 10 years or more. And if you really study marketing, marketing has a mix. It's a very young. At the time for me, it was a very young field in business. Even though it's been around for a while, people truly didn't understand it. They thought marketing was just sales and advertisement. When it's deeper than that, it has a psychological component of it because it has parts of psychology and it has parts of business in it, and that's the marriage of marketing. And so, like the thing about colors for your brand, talking about word choice, how many words, you talking about shoot from how, you can look at the stop sign. Why does the stop sign have 8 sides? Why is it color? Why is it the color red? Why is it a certain height? Why is it placed at a certain position point? On a street corner. Why do we have red, yellow, and green as the colors when it comes down to stop, caution, or go? Like it's the reasoning behind everything that you're seeing. So, and that's all about influence. How as much as we can gain your influence or grab your attention, that's the same way when it comes down to the law of role playing and the law of narcissism. They marriage those two marriage together is kind of like almost marketing, not and that's marketing used for the worst thing. If you use it for the worst part of it versus the good part of it, where you can serve others or bring awareness or attention to some people of something that they never knew about before. So we talked about role playing in modern society, and like I said before, pretty much in the age dominated by social media, do you feel the pressure to perform or portray a certain role online? How do you think this affect your real life interactions? For me, I'm just can't only talk about but me. Do I feel like social media puts pressure on me to perform or portray a certain type of character? No, I don't. I don't feel that way because also you gotta remember I grew up without social media. But I'm thinking about this generation who has social media and how they growing up with it, and a lot of things like looking at likes, um, follows. They a lot of times they determine their self worth from that. Me, I don't determine my self worth from how many people follow me, how many people listens to me. Like we have one person right now currently watching this live. That does not bother me, not one bit. If it's 0 people, I'm still gonna do the same thing and perform the same way because regardless of who's there, the quality and the information must be shared. So to me, social media is not. It doesn't put pressure on me to portray a certain role online or perform a certain way. But can it alter real life interactions? It definitely can because you may see somebody one way online and then you see them in person and it's a totally different exchange and now you put off. So like I like to say, just be you. If people don't like you for you, that's fine. Not everybody's gonna like you. 3 people are gonna love you. 3 people are gonna hate you. Everybody else might be on the fence. Who cares? End of the day, if you know God and you love God, then that's all that matters. We as man cannot tell you anything about you except for how we can improve as a whole because we have to live on this planet and work together. But other than that, you know, don't be affected too much about social media. Social media is exactly what it's called, social media. Which is a form of entertainment. It's a form of gathering knowledge, information, whatever you must do with it. But have some discernment, do some research, you know, deep dive into certain things. Don't just look at what you see and think that's the answer. There's deeper concepts, deeper answers to all types of questions. So for you all, if you're listening to this or you coming late, whatever, like in the chat down below, answer that question. Do you feel the pressure to perform or portray a certain role online in this age of social media? And if you don't, or if you do, how does this affect your real life interactions? Just leave that comment down below. Share your thoughts. We'd love to check it out. Now, other part, talking about learning from role playing. So how can we learn from role playing? What lessons do you think we can learn from and understanding the roles that we and other people play? How can this knowledge improve our relationships and communication skills? When I thought about that question, the first thing came to my mind is whenever you move up in your job or in your current career, right? You start off at the bottom level as an entry level because You gotta learn. You gotta get a foundation. You may have good communication skills that you think that are good. Like I think my communication skills are pretty good. However, they're not great. I'm always still trying to figure out a way to improve because I talk fast. Sometimes my words slur. So I'm already aware of the things that I need to fix. However, I have to consciously work on these things daily. It's tough. It's a struggle at times, but it's not an excuse, right? So understanding that role, understanding who my audience is, helps me be in a certain role as a communicator. Right now, I'm trying to become a communicator. So in order for me to reach you, to get your buy-in, to also have you understand the intent behind this message, I need to now put on the role of a communicator because I'm the sender of the message. So I think you do need to understand the roles that you're in. So if I go to another level, let's say I go from an entry level now to, let's say I'm a manager or a supervisor. So now I have a bigger responsibility. I have people underneath me that I must now manage or be in charge of supervising their time, make sure they come in on time, make sure they understand their staff, all those types of things. So if that's the case, in every role I step into, I must now understand what consists of, like not what consists, but what comes with that role and the responsibilities that I must bear. The same thing from when I was a single man to when I became married. Two different roles, two different responsibilities. As a single man, I'm only responsible for myself. The role I have to play is I'm only somebody's son, and somebody's brother. I'm nobody's father at this moment. I'm nobody's husband. I don't have to play those roles of trying to be the head of the household, to try to bring all the income in, try to make sure that I'm the disciplinarian for my children and so forth. I don't have to play that role yet. But once I got married, now I became a husband, so I have another role to fulfill. My wife requires certain things from me. My house requires certain things from me, and then now I become a father. So it's another role. So there's nothing wrong from understanding the roles that we have to play. We just can't play those roles to everybody. Not saying that you can't. I'm not saying that you can't play roles for everybody, but you can't play specific roles for certain jobs. Every job or every position has a role and responsibility that is required for that. You can't say, oh, I work at McDonald's, I'm a cook at McDonald's, and go over to then go on Applebee's or Chili's and say, oh, I can do the same job at McDonald's over here at Applebee's. It's a different level. They're not just dropping fries, chicken nuggets, making burgers. They also making pasta and some other stuff. They got preparation to do that you may not have to do as much of at McDonald's. You may have to cut some lettuce and tomatoes and onions up. Cool, but you're not doing a lot of the other work. Or if you go into a 5-star restaurant where it's prep day is the day you come in, where you actually making everything fresh, and the speed of cooking is different than just placing it into a machine and letting it just drive through. You actually have to understand temperature, all types of stuff. So understanding and learning from roles are very important. Now, how can this knowledge improve our relationships and communication skills? Like I said, for whatever role you're in, get a deep understanding of what's required of you. You have responsibilities in that role. Once you understand those responsibilities, then you can understand what's my relationship within this role to whatever's on the outside. Like whenever, like let's say for example, I travel a lot, right? So me going to the airport, people that work in the airport, that work the gates, whatever, or that fly the planes, a pilot has a different role and responsibility than your flight attendant. Your flight attendant has a different role and responsibility than the gate agent, right? So if the flight is not taking off on time, why would I get mad at the pilot or the flight attendant or the gate agent? Whose fault is for the flight not taking off on time? It might not even be none of their fault. It could be the fact that the weather could be horrible. It could be low visibility. It could be something for your safety. But yet and still, we want to go and then lash out at the gate agent or the pilot or the crew or whatever because of issues. But maybe the grounds crew couldn't get people off because the actual flight line was packed. So now your flight is delayed. But you want to have an attitude with other people. I think once you understand everybody's roles and responsibility within their job and their position, then it helps you understand how to communicate efficiently. Because you could have maybe got a refund or maybe got a comp ticket or credit for something, saying, hey, look, I just want to talk to your manager. I want to see if there's a way I get compensated for the fact that I'm now late for X amount of this meeting, wherever I may have to go. I had to be here by a certain time, and now that cost me money on the back end for something else. So I need to be compensated somehow. It's ways we can communicate, but I think once you out your role and don't understand other people's roles, you tend to treat them or do them wrong. So, if you don't have this book right here, I advise to get it. This is the book we're going through. This whole book is for the quarter, The Laws of Human Nature. And like I said, real quick, please subscribe, like, follow, share, leave some comments. Let us know what you're feeling, what you're thinking. If this is very helpful for you, please leave that. I like to get some feedback so that way I can tell whether or not I need to adjust something to make sure that I'm providing value back to you. I don't want to just be up here just giving information if it's not valuable to you. Because, hey, like I said, we all here trying to push, trying to grow, trying to learn together. So let's get to it. But law 3, law of role playing, is really about unmasking yourself and looking at body language, reading through people, but also understanding yourself. What I tend to figure out from this book is that each law builds upon the first, builds upon the one before it. Law 1, which was the law of irrationality, talks about leading with your emotions more than your logic, which means you have to be self-aware of these things. This whole book is about self-awareness, understanding that we all human, we all make mistakes. These laws are not all bad. It just shows you a shadow side and a good side of each law. Law 2 talks about the law of narcissism, but it's really the good side of it is about empathy. How can we be more empathetic? But every law builds upon the next. So the next law we'll talk about next week, which is law 4. If I remember right, let me pull it up. I'm trying to pull it out the book. It should be. It's not the law of. I think it's about people's character or strength or something like that. Oh, the law of compulsive behavior. The law of compulsive behavior. That's what we're going to talk about next week at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Like I said, thank you for tuning in, checking us out. Every Thursday, be here 8 o'clock. If you're here, you're here. If you're not, you're not. But either way, the show must go on. I appreciate you taking your time out to listen to us. And once again, we out.